The Rise and Shine podcast series is made possible by the generous support of Bonnie Vozar of Chicago, Illinois.
What we're talking about is anava, which means humility. The Hebrew language is built on a system of roots. The root of humility is the same as the root of questioning and answering. Not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less, right? Activate that curiosity.
This is Rise and Shine, a podcast that offers timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations to fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note. Here is Adrienne Gold-Davis.
So last week, Jessica and I talked about the quiet and sometimes not so quiet competition of Jewish moms, but I needed more. And I know you all felt the same. So this week, our conversation is going to be, a little less than a half an hour. Now, as a reminder, Jessica is a writer and a ritualist and a liturgist committed to the discipline of delight. Before coming to Momentum, she was part of the founding team at One Table. She was the director of Jewish learning there for 7 years. She's an alumna of Washington University in St. Louis and Baltimore Hebrew University. She got her rabbinic ordination at the Jewish Theological Seminary. And she once told me that nothing sparks shame quite like feeling judged by other Jewish moms, whether it's about your parenting choices or your religious observance or your career priorities or your family values. And in many ways, shame is different than competition. Today, we're going to try and unpack this concept of being or acting holier than thou. Ooh, save me from it. Jessica, help us.
Thanks again for having me, Adrienne. It's such a pleasure to be here to talk about the pain of being judged by your own community, because that pain hits different. It hits deeper.
Oh, doesn't it? So help me unpack this uniquely painful experience, and it is unique, of being scrutinized by that critical gaze of your own people, of your own Jewish community.
So one of the things that's fascinating about this is that feeling the pain more acutely when perceived judgment comes from within the Jewish community means that you value Jewish community. Because if you didn't value it, you wouldn't care. So just by being and acknowledging this pain point, you're saying that pain hits deeper when the call is coming from inside the house, right? When the judgment is coming from inside the family, which necessitates you're already in a really interesting, positive place of valuing of Klal Yisrael, of valuing the Jewish people, of valuing your Jewish family. So that's one first thing.
Okay, that's a very generous way of looking at it. Go on.
But it sucks. Am I allowed to say that?
You just did, honey bunch. You just did. And I think it's fun because honestly, it does suck. There is nothing
worse.
Because it feels like your family. It's like your mother is judging you. Some other Jewish mother may as well be your mother.
And it's not just disapproval. It feels like rejection, because these are the people who are supposed to understand you, who are supposed to welcome you. So this core value that we teach at Momentum and that runs through every Jewish teaching about human dignity, or kavod habriot, teaches that every single person is created in the image of Hashem, b'tselem Elokim, the image of God. And when we scrutinize each other, when we judge each other, because we're not just on the receiving end of it, Adrienne, we do it too.
Yes, we do.
It's
not me, but everybody else.
Yeah. Yes, not you, everyone else. It strips away the dignity of the other. And when you do that, it violates something sacred. And so that's why the pain is so acute, because something sacred about yourself is being violated.
Oh my goodness. It's interesting. I wonder too, this is going to sound terrible, but I wonder if the critical scrutiny that we may feel inside our own homes is what is triggered when it happens from the outside. Like, why should I care what that woman in the, who's part of the carpool thinks about me? It's not my family. But maybe it brings me back to times where I felt scrutinized or was afraid that I would be rejected if I didn't toe the line in my own home. And so out in the greater Jewish world, if I'm not towing the line this way or that way or the other way, will I also be rejected? Is that possible?
It's not only possible, it's plausible, and we see it play out over and over again in Torah. Because what makes judgment, when we think about like looking through the stories of Nevi'im, of the prophets, and looking at these stories of our relationship, not only with each other in community, but our relationship with God, with this power greater than ourselves. It's painful because we equate belonging with approval. And when approval is withdrawn, what is the result of that? It feels like galut. It feels like exile.
Oh my, yes. Yes, it's so interesting because I used to say to my kids when they were smaller, I would say, the fact that I don't approve or the fact that I say no does not mean a withdrawal of my love. Why does it feel like that to you? Why does it feel like that to us, Jessica? Why?
Because it pulls away that source of love. So when it's our mother, we feel like some of that love is being withdrawn. And even when we tell our kids that talking about your behavior is different than talking about your neshama, your essence as a person, your soul. So when I talk to my daughter when she misbehaves and I say, your behavior is bad, I try really hard to be explicit about the action and not the person. You are not a bad person, but the behavior was bad.
Yeah, that's wise. And obviously, it's pretty common parenting wisdom, but children do tend to see any lack of approval or even disagreement as a withdrawal of love. I wonder if that is innate in the human condition and it's something that we have to mature into. Even, even with my adult children, and especially around things like this. The truth is, I've had a great struggle in my own family because my own children practice Judaism in a very different way than they were raised at home. And sometimes I wonder whether they feel, no, I don't wonder, I know they felt judged by me. And you know why? Because I was judging them. Because on some deep level, it felt profoundly threatening to me that what they learned at the knee wasn't good enough for them. And so this whole feeling of rejection when you don't do it the way your family did it or the rest of the community did it, the sort of in-group, out-group sensation, it happens at school as well. This is, I think, why we have no peace in this world. This is the inability to focus on what unites us and not what divides us. And I know that I made my kids feel that way. I have worked really, really hard to turn that around, Jessica, but you can make some really big mistakes when you equate acquiescence to your way or demanding unilateral uniformity in behavior. If it starts to feel like love is withdrawn if you don't do that, if you're not hyper conscious of it, that is the way your kids feel naturally. So how does this internalized judgment within close-knit Jewish communities, how does that actually impact our self-esteem, our relationships, even our family life, do you think?
Well, I think what you're getting at is like a moral foundation that's at the core of Jewish teachings around Lashon Hara, or the idea of derogatory speech or negative speech talking about other people. And that sort of spiritual core is this idea that talking about someone or speaking ill of someone is tantamount, the Gemara says, tantamount to murder, because our words create worlds. And when you create a world that kills someone's reputation or damages someone's relationship or threatens their sense of belonging, it's like you have literally killed a part of that person. So in Jewish spaces, in a lot of our Jewish spaces, we're close-knit, it's tight quarters, everyone knows everyone, gossip travels fast. And it shifts when you hear that, that negative speech about someone else, even if you don't share it, just hearing it can shape your self-perception. And that's connected to what you're talking about in our relationships with our kids. So these things are interconnected. And when we develop our skill set in one, we strengthen those muscles in the other, because parenting is already high stakes, right?
Sure.
All of your choices are second guessed. Even if they're not second guessed by others, they're second guessed by you, right?
Oh, I'll say, or third guest.
Right. So it's like, am I sending my daughter to public school or a day school? Are we keeping kosher at home, or are we keeping kosher at home and maybe not? Maybe we eat out because our parents don't keep kosher. How Jewish our Shabbat looks like. So that shame starts to creep in, and you start to ask yourself that question: am I doing enough? Am I enough? Am I Jewish enough? And when you start having that self-doubt, one of the ways we elevate ourselves is by pushing down others.
Yes. Yes. And you know what else happens? I've noticed is that when we allow shame to come in, the response to shame is not always to up your game. Sometimes it's to say, screw all of this. You know what? It's never good enough. If this isn't good enough, I'm not doing anything, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Because many times when people feel, when they go into spaces where they are not just like everybody else, it reconfirms for them why they shouldn't have tried in the first place. And we know that life, and Jewish life especially, is not all or nothing, not parenting, not practice or ritual, none of those things. And I think, you know, it's almost an excuse to not engage, to blame people for not accepting you. And do we have to find spaces where people are exactly like us? How do we maintain the integrity of our spaces? How do we keep our standards? How do I say to someone, I think you're wrong, but I still love you and want to have lunch with you? How do we do that with our kids? How do we do that with community? How do we do that?
So you taught and continue to teach on the momentum trip, because that's where I learned it from you. A beautiful teaching from Pirkei Avot, from the Ethics of Our Fathers, one of the central Jewish ethical, moral, foundational texts, Dan l'chaf, that we as Jews are commanded to judge others favorably. And we have those little bracelets on the trip where we ask the women to put these bracelets on, and when they start to spray their negativity outward or to cast judgment, they have to move the bracelet from one wrist to the other, with the goal of moving the bracelet less over time. And hopefully by the end of the trip, you're not moving the bracelet at all. How often do we extend that to other moms? And how often do we extend it to ourselves? So Rav Salanter taught that we should focus 90% of judgment inward, and only then can we look outward with that last 10%. And if you hold up your hand, there's a great physical connection to this. If you hold up your hand and point at someone, as if you're looking at them, pointing at them, they did something wrong. How many fingers are pointing right back at you?
Exactly. 4. Right back at you.
Right. So when we try to judge others favorably, right, we realize that we're actually sitting with a very uncomfortable truth.
And the
Are
Torah
we
tells
truly
us.
being judged, or are we projecting our own insecurities?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, that's the question, because I know that there's Torah that says that we don't even notice something unless we contain an element of it in ourselves. And I mean, I know Byron Katie, for example, with the work, talks about, take the thought, turn it around. There's all kinds of things that you can do. But if we really internalize that the minute we are about to judge somebody, the minute we are about to judge negatively, because you can judge. The truth is we make 1 million judgments a day, and we're sentient beings. We have an obligation to make judgments, and we do every minute. We're told to judge favorably, not to not judge. So every time we judge unfavorably, if we said to ourselves, wow, this bugs me a lot, it must mean that I contain some of this within my own behavior, it might tell us to pause and do the work ourselves. What does the Torah say? Remove the crossbeam from between your eyes, right? Take away the thing that is blinding you, because it's within you yourself. And maybe if our children see us doing this, maybe they won't grow up with that internalized panic about being judged, which will often make them judge first in self-defense.
Right. I think there's a really practical takeaway there, which is before assuming we're being judged, right? You know how you walk into a room, maybe you're walking into synagogue and you don't know people and there's like a clique of all the moms and they all know each other and
Yep.
you feel like the outsider. Before you ask or assume you're being judged, think to yourself, would I judge someone else for this? Would I judge someone else for being new to synagogue? Would I judge someone else for showing up for the first time or not knowing everyone in the community? Or would I really judge someone else for the way where they send their kid to school or how they keep Shabbat? Or maybe the judgment is actually coming from within.
Wow. You know, when we talk about gossip and judgment in Jewish spaces, and we talk about the shame that we internalize about our parenting choices and our lifestyles and so on, I think that what you're saying here is that maybe instead of blaming the community, even though it does exist,
Mhm.
it's like it has to begin within ourselves. If we are willing to remove the crossbeam from our own eyes, if we are willing to do the work ourselves, if we're willing to say, if I notice this so intensely, there must be an element of it within me. I wonder how adept a person has to be at self-scrutiny before they can make a judgment about anything else. What do you think?
I often think Hebrew has an answer for this. The Hebrew language is built on a system of roots, which means every word has a root.
Right.
And ultimately, I think what we're talking about is anava, which means humility. The concept of it's not about thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And the root of anava, the root ayin nun he, appears across the Tanakh in different forms across the Hebrew Bible. And one of the ways that it appears, and in modern Hebrew as well, is la'anot, to answer, to respond, to be, which requires questioning. And questioning and curiosity are at the core of humility, of the core of not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. My shrink always says, like, when I'm worried people are talking about me, Jess, nobody is thinking about you that much. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
That is a jagged little pill that we all have to swallow.
Imagine the hubris of thinking that everyone cares when you walk into a room, right? Nobody cares. Keep showing up. Keep showing up, right? Activate that curiosity. The root of humility is the same as the root of questioning and answering.
Oh, that was beautiful. Will you talk to me again next week, please?
Oh, it would be my honor and pleasure.
Woo! Okay, I feel good. That was very gratifying for me. I know I got a lot of work to do and I got a huge crossbeam between my eyes. So, if you see me and I'm staggering under the weight of it, maybe you could help lift it up for me, okay?
I'll help lift yours if you help lift mine.
Deal. Oh, thanks, babe.
Thanks, Adrienne.
Thanks for listening to Rise and Shine. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Momentum Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join Adrienne again next time for more timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations that fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note.
This podcast was made possible by the generous support of Bonnie Vozar of Chicago, Illinois. Spread the wisdom. Inspire Jewish individuals around the globe by supporting Momentum's podcasts. To sponsor, contact podcast@momentumunlimited.org. You're listening to a Momentum podcast. For unlimited inspiration, wisdom, and empowerment, visit momentumunlimited.org.